day is back. Boss and Beckler, we are here for you. And we got some great news for you. If you missed the news, the Boss Man Show is now on Radio Public now, John. We're also on Deezer. We on Spotify now, John. We've added three mobile radio affiliates, John, just this year, brother, in Deezer, Radio Public, and Spotify. Especially Spotify's a big one because they are big in the streaming business, John.
You've been a busy man this year, brother.
Yeah, yes I have. Yeah, man. Yes indeed. I mean, the show is growing. The show does itself pretty much, and it's John. I have some gratification in knowing, folks. I'm gonna tell y'all something. John Beckler is the program director behind the scenes here. His ideology is why we have the format we have today. He's the background program director of the Boss Man Show. Is John Beckler. And the show does itself with John's great ideas and is listener friendly. Rather than putting a full block together, we give you an hour block of each hour of content. So before you get your hour one and your hour two, and you get your guests in hour one, and we have our fun in hour two with JC Donnie. We dropping off here in the next week, but he'll be back college basketball season when we come back up again. So pretty much you will have content guest hour one, boss report emails JC hour two, and the show does itself, John. And it's got to be, because it's lovely to know each week it pretty much the show can do itself.
Well, and we'll still be able to give you updates from Donnie as the year goes on, because we'll always be chatting with him via text message and on the phone and whatnot. So we'll be hooking you up with Donnie's takes on some things. We'll make sure we clean them up for radio consumption, right?
yes, because Donnie's texts are very let's say they're not very radio friendly.
No, but they're very informative.
Very much so.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The show's I'm having a good time this year. It's fun. It's been a fun year. Can you believe it's already pushing April? I mean, this weekend, Sunday is April 1st, man.
First quarter is already over.
It's cooking.
First quarter is already over, and it's fun. And people have been asking me about what happened with the affiliate. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just say that John and I know when it's time to pull the plug. That's what I won't say. Without going in details or making it a big scene, let's just say John and I know when to pull the plug. As you all know, we pulled the plug on 1100 Atlanta at the right time. We pulled the plug on this at the right time. John, do you want to add anything else there or leave it at that?
I would just say that we have experience and we can see when things aren't going the way that we want them to go. And rather than go down that road any further, it's best to just, sometimes hit the next off ramp. Hit the next off ramp, JR. When you miss your exit on the highway, you just got to get the next one and spin it around, brother.
Exactly. So, and you see, since we've left the affiliate, the show's quality has not dipped any. You see the guests we've been booking, fans. So don't think that because the 4 hours is gone, the show's going to get worse. I'm not going to complain about the 4 hours. Let's just say trying to book 4 hours every week wasn't hard. It just became tougher. So now we can condense it 2 hours. You get the best of the best each week. And John, you can speak to it. I was busting my butt to get the show booked. But we did it, though. But it's a more cleaner 2 hours.
And what people don't maybe not recognize, if you, for instance, if your favorite everyday morning drive sports show has guests on periodically throughout the course of the week, right? So they might do 3 hours a day from Monday through Friday. Well, if you're on a bigger affiliate station or if you're a nationally syndicated guy that's been doing this for 20 years and you've got a big time reputation, for instance, say like Rome, dudes are calling Rome to get on his show. It's not a lot of trouble booking that show. And you can get whoever you want. But, we have to work a little bit harder at it. Specifically, JR's got to work a little harder at it. So booking 4 hours every week isn't always the easiest thing to do,
Exactly. And so just know we pulled it off. Thank God we have thank God we have good content and good friends to cover segments for us. But it was a great experience. I wouldn't mind doing it again, but I just need a bigger platform to do it on, where it won't be such a cumbersome effort to book the guest. So I want to share that with you listeners, so you all can understand the thinking behind our moves here this early part of the first quarter of the year. But still, we have audio boom is even doing a lot better. We have our iHeartRadio doing great. YouTube is doing good. Facebook is growing as well. Instagram is growing. Twitter is growing as well. So, John, all around, we have growth here. I love the growth we're having. And just to know where the show started from, and so where I can sit here in 2018 and say, hey, I seen this show grow from nothing to this and go through two affiliates that pretty much were not what we needed them to be. And still, the show's not missed a beat, which tells me we have a solid foundation here at the Bossman Show to move forward and do great things for you listeners and bring you quality content every week, limitations aside.
I'm still tripping that it's almost April, bro.
Exactly.
I can't believe how fast it went through the beginning of this year, man. It's already pushing up on playoff basketball time.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's that time of year, people. So I hope you all enjoy the show and keep on watching the show. Keep on enjoying the show because it's going to continue to get better. And I'm going to always fight like hell. That's the best guest here on the Boss Band Show. Coming up this hour, you'll hear from Sean Devaney. You'll hear from Russell Baxter and Tony T-Bone Williams. And in hour two, you will hear from Donnie Tyndall. You will also hear from J.C. Smith. You will also hear the Boss Report and a batch of your emails. We here, baby. JR and John, show's rolling. Let's go. We out.
Hello, my name is Travis Williams, President and CEO of Academics and Athletic Consulting, focusing on educating and empowering tomorrow's collegiate athletic leaders. My passion is for the education and genuine concern and care for today's student athlete. It's the centerpiece of my life's work. A college education, both in and out of the classroom, is a truly rewarding benefit. For more information on AAC, you can go to www.academicsandathleticsconsulting.com. Once again, www.academicsandathleticsconsulting.com. Or you can follow me on Facebook at Academics and Athletic Consulting or Twitter at Coach TWill24 or Instagram Travis L. Williams 24. Or you can call me at 404-542-6079. Once again, AAC is very proud to partner with J.R. McHenry of the Bossman Radio Show, covering sports and entertainment across the country. Please tune in weekly for informative, entertaining, and expert analysis on today's sports and entertainment topics. Thank you.
Sit back here in the JR the Boss Man Show. Got a friend that's on the line with us from sportingnews.com and sport news all over the world. Checking my email writer, Sean Devaney out of Boston. Sean, what's up, my brother? Long time no speak, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me back on, JR.
Yes, indeed. I'd like to talk to you, my man. I want to start you off, Sean, with Warriors injuries. It's crazy between Steph, Andre Iguodala having his back issues, but still playing. Draymond Green with a pelvis, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant. Do you feel these injuries are actually going to help them down the road where they're not burning that fuel? They'll be playing these meaningless games here and making it worse and getting these bench guys like a Quinn Cook, getting a guy like Nick Young some run here, JaVale McGee, Damian Jones. Because even though it hurts right now, like I'm saying, a 2 seed, but down the road it could be for the guys I've been so taxed in May and June.
Yeah, I think that they probably would be resting some of these guys anyways. So a guy like Draymond, I think if the games that mattered, if they're fighting for that number 1 seed, he'd probably be out there. But I think Steve Kerr can read the writing on the wall, and seeing how Houston has played, there's not much point in going out and pressing these guys into playing when you could really use the rest, as you say, to be ready for May and June. So yeah, I think there's no doubt that with some of these guys, there's an aspect of that. However, if you're talking about Iguodala's back, that's been an issue for him the last few years. That's a concern. Certainly, Steph Curry coming back from a knee surgery, however minor, that's still a concern. He's going to have to try to come back during the playoffs, which is not something that anybody likes to do. He's done it before and done it successfully, but it's not anything that anybody likes to do. So, those concern me. But I think for the most part, I think Klay Thompson would be out there if he were able to. Durant might need a couple days off, but his isn't that big of a deal. I think the ones that worry me are Iguodala and Steph Curry, and whether that affects them once the playoffs get rolling.
So now you guys talked a little bit about these injuries. What about some potential tricky matchups they might have coming up in the first round? It looks like they could have a little curveball thrown at them here and there. What do you make of that, Sean?
Yeah, I think if they get Minnesota, they'll be fine. If they get a team that doesn't have a whole lot of playoff experience like that, even the New Orleans, I think that they'd be all right. Utah would scare me with the way that they played. If you go back to January 24th, I believe they're 23-4 over that stretch. They've just been really, since late January, they've been incredible. So, Utah would certainly scare me, and they play with size. They play great defense. So that's a matchup I wouldn't like if I were them. Of course, San Antonio, I think, is always a tough matchup. They're always going to be a playoff-ready group. So that's not a team I'd like to see. And Oklahoma City, frankly, I think the Thunder will be able to hang on to one of the higher seeds, 4 or 5, somewhere in that range. But if they happen to slip down to 7, which is possible given how bunched up it is, then I don't think that's a matchup that the Warriors really want to see either. So it's the first round is not going to be a cakewalk for them, especially if Steph Curry doesn't play, as Steve Kerr says his star guard will not be doing.
Sean, talk about Houston here, Sean. They're toward the pace, right? According to 10 straight games that they win tonight here. Will they rest more guys down the stretch or chase the number of victories? Because I feel like the Houston Rockets may gas themselves out with this pace they're on right now, with Harden, those guys wanting to play, and Chris Paul hating to sit out on those guys. So, are you concerned about Houston's pace, where they're going? It was going down in these last few games of the season here. Maybe get somebody hurt, like on fluke injury, trying to rack up wins just to get a record.
Yeah, when you look at Mike D'Antoni's history, he's never been a guy who likes to rest players down the stretch. And that may have cost him, when he was in Phoenix and some of those teams ran out of gas against San Antonio or teams like that. So I don't know if maybe he'll look back at the history there and say, we've got to change our approach and we've got the number 1 seed, so maybe we should slow things down, or certainly Daryl Morey, the GM, and we know what he does with crunching numbers and looking over the history of how these things play out and can show him the benefit of rest. So I'd expect that Houston would have learned something from the past, and that in the end you'll see them rest some guys, especially as we get into April.
So Sean, let's swing it over to the East and talk about Toronto a little bit. Poised to be first in the East. Boston looks like they're going to come in at number 2. I suppose you could answer either of those teams. Can they beat LeBron and the Cavs 4 out of 7 games? It's one thing to take that top spot or second spot during the regular season, but the Cavs and LeBron are kind of playoff battle tested now. So winning 4 out of 7, against LeBron and the Cavs. How feasible do you think that is?
Yeah, I'm not going to run to Vegas and put down any bets against LeBron James in the playoffs against that Eastern Conference. I just until somebody beats him, it's hard to see how it's going to happen because it's been 7 straight years, and what have we seen that makes us think that it won't be 8? Boston has suffered some injuries here. Obviously, Kyrie Irving now. They don't have Gordon Hayward, of course, all year. Marcus Smart. So they're certainly thin. Toronto, I love what they've done in terms of how they've changed their style of play. It's been very effective. They're much more of a ball-sharing offense. They played much better defense this year, and that's great. But what happens in the playoffs? Can you carry that into the playoffs and keep your performance raised that way? That's not something we've seen them do in the past. So there's certainly question marks for them, and both teams have the big question mark is who guards LeBron. Who are you going to put on him? That's going to be a problem that every team in the East has until LeBron either retires or packs up and heads to LA or something. So I don't anticipate that problem going away. So as good as Boston has been, as good as Toronto has been, those teams have been resilient all year. I just don't see either one having the answer to the LeBron problem. So I think we're probably still looking at Cleveland, even if they come in with that 3. Heck, they could even come in as a number 4 seed if Philadelphia passes them. I still wouldn't bet against LeBron James, though, getting that team back to the finals.
Yeah, Sean Definitely here, Sport News with us on the Bossman Show. And Sean, how would you grade the trades the Cavs made so far? These additional George Hill, Rodney Hood, Larry Nance, and those guys, and Jordan Clarkson. How you like that film, Master? Do you think this is enough to make LeBron James say, "Hey, maybe I should stay here and not go to Philadelphia or LA or somewhere else"?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the playoffs because we haven't really seen them with their whole group together. We're just starting to see it now with Kevin Love back, with Tristan Thompson back, and they're a much better team when they've got that full roster. So it's been pretty hard to sort of evaluate how these guys have fit and how good they'll be going forward. I thought the trades were great at the time, and I would still say that even if they do peter out down the stretch here. Because when you look at where they were with Isaiah Thomas and guys like that, they just weren't getting anywhere, and they weren't having much fun playing basketball either. So they have at least given themselves a jolt. They brought in 3 guys who are 25 years old, and Clarkson, Nance, and Rodney Hood. So that does give you something to go on in the future. They didn't give up that pick, the Brooklyn pick, so they could still wind up possibly with the top 3 pick in the draft in what should be a pretty good draft this year. So I like very much what Cleveland did. I think that one thing that they did is even if LeBron does leave, I don't think the bottom falls out. I think they got themselves enough young talent. Like I said, they kept that pick so that what's going to wind up happening is you'll still have some young guys to keep building around, even if LeBron does leave.
So, Sean, let's look at some of these coaches. It's that time of the year. We can start putting up some pictures on the wall of guys who are going to be in trouble at the end of the season. Who makes that list for you?
Well, I think we didn't see a whole lot of coaching changes in the last couple of years. And so I think a lot of that's going to come down this coming year. Certainly Jeff Hornacek in New York, I'd probably start with him. I think he's in some trouble. That really hasn't been a situation that's worked out, and you've got a change in general managers, and when you have that, usually they're going to want to coach in on their own terms. Frank Vogel is in that situation in Orlando. If something happens with the Pelicans and they don't make the playoffs, or if they completely flop, I think you could see Alvin Gentry certainly on the firing line. I think you go through and there's going to be some obvious names on there, but there's still some question. Like, I don't know what happens with Doc Rivers. I don't know if they're going to look at this and say, he deserves another chance. He had us in playoff contention. Despite the fact that they made the changes that they did in the Blake Griffin trade and all that. I'm interested to see, that to me is the real question mark. Like I said, a guy like Vogel or Hornacek, I think you can pretty much see the writing on the wall for those guys. But somebody like Doc Rivers, I think that's going to be a much more interesting situation.
Now, Sean, we know what Tom Thibodeau does to people's legs, and we're hearing Jeff T complaining about it. Tyus Gibson, Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, and Carl Austin Tibbs needs to play the bench more. His starters are averaging 34.8 minutes per game. When he ruined Derrick Rose's career by getting him injured in that late night first round series in 2012. I'm never gonna forget that. I watched it like, man, this Thibodeau running man to the ground, and Derrick Rose is back there with the Timberwolves. I don't know why he's back there. I wasn't going to near that man, but that's just me personally. But when's he gonna learn that he can't gas his players out and run them to the ground like he's been doing? You expect to trust him in something. When all your starters are commenting about you and you doing this, when are you gonna learn your lesson if you're Tom Thibodeau?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a style that he coaches, and he hasn't changed it. And I agree that I thought that this was a deeper team this year, and that he had more opportunities to change it and to rely a little more on the bench. They've had some injuries, but everybody has injuries. I thought there was much more opportunities to cut back on the minutes. Get them in the 30 to 33 range for these guys, and help them last throughout the year. Jimmy Butler's injury, I don't necessarily put that on Thibodeau, but when you look what's happening to them with Butler out, somebody's going to get hurt. Just that's the nature of the NBA. So you want to have guys at the end of March and April who are ready for that grind, especially if they've got to make up for a teammate who's not in there. So now you're watching and you're seeing these guys lose games that they shouldn't lose and be in tough games. I mean, they had a tough win over the Knicks the other night, which they needed quite a bit, but they had to struggle for that. They shouldn't be struggling to beat the Knicks at this point with no Porzingis and a team that's pretty much given up. But that's sort of the net effect of this is you wind up in a situation and you can say Derrick Rose and all those other things, but just in the fact of how you want your team playing at this time of year, you just don't see that from the Timberwolves right now. And I agree with you. I think Thibodeau bears some responsibility for that, just for the number of minutes he's put on these guys.
So, speaking of the Knicks, they can't even tank, right? So what do you make of this year's NBA Tank Fest, Sean? Do you think it's going to continue, next year, or do you think that lottery reform is going to kind of curb this as we move forward?
I still don't see, as long as there's some advantage in losing down the stretch, even if it's a minor advantage, and they did cut back on how much of an advantage it gives you, but as long as there's some advantage, then I think you're going to see teams continue to do it. I mean, why wouldn't you? What else do you have to play for if you're Phoenix at this point? If you're Sacramento or whoever it is, you've got to play for the best possible draft pick. And even if you're only giving yourself, an extra 5% chance here or there, that's 5%. You got to take it. You got to increase your odds. So I don't really see, unless they get rid of the lottery altogether. I don't see them doing that. Then I don't see them ending tanking. And you got to remember, look, tanking goes back to the 80s. It goes way back. This is something that has been going on in the league for 40 years. There's nothing you can do to stop it because teams that aren't very good are going to look at the draft and say, all right, we've got to increase our chances, and that's really the only way they have to do it.
You got that right. Again, stuck in the middle in this league is not a good thing. You need to be
right.
very bad or very good, not in
That's
between, because that means you're going nowhere fast. A.K. Atlanta Hawks. So it's like,
well, they've got the very bad part down pretty well now. At least they didn't for a while, but yeah, they've got it down pat now. And certainly, yeah. When I was making my list, I should have had buttonholes. They're certainly up there as well.
Hey, Sean, when I tell you this, when I saw the look on Travis Link's face and Mr. Russell's face when they won against Utah, the look was like, what just happened? That's the look they had on their faces. What just happened here?
Right.
I'm like, I'm with you. What just happened? So bad. Hey, Sean, you're the best. Thank you always coming on the show from John and myself. We love having your insights on the show, man. Keep doing your thing in sport news, man. We love watching your work, brother.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
right, folks, it's back in the jar of the Bossman Show. We're joined by Russell Baxter, Bax Football Guru. You can see him on all kind of platforms here on Sirius XM Radio, Fox Sports Radio. He's the man. Got you in for knowledge. Russell Baxter. Russell, good to talk to you again, man.
How we doing there, guys?
All right, we're doing pretty good here. Just enjoying some off-season football with the Falcons. Some Atlanta Hawks tanking, man.
Oh, I guess the good and the bad, huh? The Falcons not overly busy in free agency, but to me, that's usually a good sign. It's a team that's in pretty solid shape.
Yeah, and Matty Ice is waiting out Aaron Rodgers to see what he gets when he commits to a new deal. So, cause I got to try to tell some of the fans, Russell, if the Falcons wanted to do a deal with Matt Ryan, they could have done it and made the cap number so they can have agency if they wanted to have it. But obviously, they're good where they are. The Falcons are pretty much a good young set roster, and the draft, they take the best player available in the draft now, Russell. They don't have to go out there and just reach and get the best guy on the board.
That's exactly right. Okay, it's funny because I just sent out a note on something. I think people forget that last year, I don't have to tell you guys, the quote-unquote Super Bowl hangover that everybody likes to talk about, the residue of what happened in Houston and so on. And yet, the only team from the NFC playoffs in 2016 to go back to the playoffs in 2017 were the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes, sir. You're so correct. The only team
we should all be that hungover.
You got that right, and you know what, Russell, and you can say if they called Julio Jones or interference on Julio Jones in his Philadelphia end zone, they may could win Super Bowl again this year. But Philadelphia won that game and went on that run with Nick Foles. So really, a call here or there, a Matt Ryan missing an open tight end away from potentially going on a run again.
Well, that's exactly right. Listen, the New England Patriots kind of epitomize the current NFL. You just brought up the point of a play here and a play there. The reason the Patriots have been as successful as they have been is they usually make the play here and the play there. Let's not get lost in the fact, listen, the Patriots have been to 8 Super Bowls since 2001. They've won 5 of them, okay? Last year, that would be considered a blowout of the recent Patriots Super Bowls. That was the first one. It was still decided by single digits, 8 points. Think about the Patriots Super Bowls. 1 by 3, 1 by 3, 1 by 3, lost by 3, lost by 4, 1 by 4, 1 by 6, lost by 8.
Mm-hmm. You got that
and that
right.
tells you a play here and a play there. That's what the league is.
You got that right. And the same kind of thing about telling basketball too, Russell. It's a make-or-miss league. Like, if you make it, you win. You don't, you lose. It's a make-or-miss league. It's like football. A play here and a play there. So I'm glad you said that, Russell, because I try to tell our fans here, we have to look at it from what it is. Like, the fans have these big old, they call them these big old premonitions and wants. I was like, hey, we got to go by what's on the field. Look at the formations, look at the matchups, and look deeper than just who they're playing, the Falcons playing, whoever. You look at the matchups, learn about the setup, the formation, the setups, the personnel groupings before you call up here to the Bossman Show with these grand ideas that don't make any sense at all. On these transactions, they want to trade people that can't trade, the cap, these. Russell, I know you probably deal with it on Twitter as well, but we get that from calls. It's crazy, man.
Well, I listen, I've adopted a saying, okay? Just remember to keep this in mind, okay? We become a very knee-jerk reaction society when it comes to sports. And never forget the word jerk is involved.
Yes, you got that right. I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. Wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Now, I want to ask you about this, Russell. Dan Quinn came out and said that the new catch rules on calls more fumbles and harder hits on receivers and whatnot. Do you feel like there'll be unintended consequences of the new rule? More catches and more fumbles at the same time and causing more harder hits?
I don't know about that. Listen, it's a bang play a lot of times and so on. I can't see this be... Listen, we have spent so much time. The fact that we're even still talking about having to clarify the catch again is kind of remarkable. But it looks like, and listen, there's going to be something that happens that's going to be different from the rule. Okay, it's good. Go look at it. Okay. But no, I have a hard time believing that. I mean, you would have. That's one of those statements that somebody makes where you're going to have to come out and show me proof that that's what's going to happen. I mean, so in other words, if some of these catches are made by the sideline, someone's going to hit somebody harder by sideline. Someone's going to hit somebody harder. No, I think that's a little bit of a reach, to be honest with you. Let's just see how it plays out more than anything else.
Exactly, and I'm with you there. And I feel like this, Russell. I feel like Dez Bryant catch, the Jesse James catch, those should be touchdowns. And theoretically, once again, a play or two here and there. If Jesse James catches Jets football, it's a touchdown. New England's maybe not the number one seed. Maybe they're playing Jacksonville in Jacksonville, not playing in New England, or Pittsburgh has, a different matchup. So, like we just said earlier, it's a play here and there. It's a game of inches. It's a game of chance and just how the luck of the play is a little bit there. That's how close these games are when these teams are.
Well, that's exactly right. And, you've got to, you go back to the end of the Pittsburgh game, and I get the Jesse James thing and all that. But on the other hand, it also kind of baffles me how the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger handled that afterwards. They seemed a little disjointed. Why didn't they kick a field goal? I understand they wanted to go for the win. They looked a little panicked, for lack of a better word. So, again, go back to the Patriots and some of the better teams in the league. When you get something like that happens, you got to put it out of your mind, and you got to move on. Bad call, even if they perfect the catch rule, which nothing's ever perfect. If you don't bounce back from something like that, you don't show some resiliency when you kind of get a little screwed and all that. You have to learn that things aren't always going to go your way, even if you're in the right. And I mean, I'll have to explain that to you. I'll have to explain to anybody who watches football and stuff. We see stuff all the time that doesn't get called, or it's a bad call, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is not going to eliminate bad calls. Hopefully it just brings a little clarity to it.
Exactly, Russell. And this is what I do want to ask you about. Do you feel like the Al Riveron in New York over officiates by trying to actually re-officiate the play rather than just does it as a clear standard that it needs to be overturned or not? I feel like earlier this year he was trying to re-referee plays. In the playoffs, he kind of backed off. I feel like Roger Goodell maybe told him, man, back off. Let's not do it this way. So do you feel like the Al Riveron or another year in his job would be more like Blandino, where he only overturns it when he has to, not because he feels like he needs to redo the play from scratch after seeing it on the screen in a big slow HD 4 or 5 times?
Well, I kind of find it hard to believe that Roger Goodell was reaching out to him and saying, let's keep it light, let's keep it light. I think you go back in playoff history, even before there was instant replay. We actually had a league. There was an instant replay, and I think it's like playoff basketball. It's different. It's officiated different. So it's and the pace of the game is much different as well. So I don't want to get into conspiracy theories that Roger Goodell is doing this and doing that and so on. I mean, I think that's a little bit of a reach as well. But it's also the guy. It's his first year on the job, and it's not an easy job, as you know, if you've been on the job for 10 years.
You got that right. I'm with you there. I am with you there, Russell. Now I ask you this, man. Looking at the free agency here, do you like the fact that Kirk Cousins got a fully guaranteed deal from Minnesota, and then more guys follow his footsteps trying to get a fully guaranteed deal? Or that's probably a thing for quarterbacks on a short-term deal, where they're being fully guaranteed?
Well, I mean, listen, it's a big step. It shows you the faith that Minnesota had in him. He could be, I don't want to get into the whole missing piece thing and so on, but I will say this here. This is a quarterback that has never had a running game, a consistent running game, and never had a quality defense like the Minnesota Vikings. So, that's great that he got the guaranteed contract, but also a lot, as you know, is going to be expected of him. Listen, I hope that it does open the door and hopefully it's not limited to quarterbacks. Okay, I think that's one of the things that fans get a little turned off on and don't understand where the player comes from when these contract negotiations are going on. That a contract can get terminated just like that, and that's why you see these guys holding out for more guaranteed money, and you see the Le'Veon Bell situation, you see the Aaron Donald situation, and so on. They know that there could be a change of heart very, very quickly. You sign a 5-year deal, they could terminate it at 2 if they choose. So, hopefully this changes things a little. It's hard to say. It's only one time. I mean, there've been guaranteed contracts in the past, but we're talking about a 3 years, $80+ million deal. I mean, that's quite the guarantee.
And Russell, I'll try to explain to our listeners here that most NFL contracts are 1 year, and then we'll see about it. It's year to year, or it's 2 years, fully guaranteed. If you look at all for injury and skill, I don't want to confuse everybody, but most of them are 1 year or 2 year guarantees. Then we'll see about it. And it's year by year with the teams at the team's discretion. What team option using our roster bonus as the thing to trigger it. And I love having somebody like yourself on because you understand the language of the game the way I do. And you can help the listeners maybe hear it a different way than John and myself would say it to them on a basis on the show each week. So glad to have you on to share that with our listeners here.
Well, I mean, I don't think fans, and I don't blame them. I mean, trying to figure out the salary cap in the NFL, no thank you. I leaned to John Clayton. He was, when I was at ESPN, he was the king. I mean, he understood it left and right and so on. And contracts in general, for instance, and maybe this isn't exactly what you're talking about, but, it's timely because, again, it's Le'Veon Bell. He's one of the guys, out there, exclusive franchise tag that they're not going to negotiate right now. They're going to wait till afterwards and so on. A lot of people are comparing, Todd Gurley got this and Leonard Fournette got this and, are they as good as him and blah, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I get all that. But what you have to understand about Le'Veon Bell's situation is also this. Todd Gurley and Leonard Fournette were first-round draft choices, which means they signed a 4-year deal for pretty decent. And in fact, I think Leonard Fournette's contract was $27 million with the 5th-year option. Okay, first-round draft choices get the 4-year contract with the 5th-year option. As you will remember, before 2011, it was a 5-year contract. Okay, and remember all the money. Remember all the money Sam Bradford made in 2010. Hadn't even taken the field. He was one of the highest-paid players ever, and so on. See, now you take Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell was a 2nd-round pick in 2013. He signed a 4-year, roughly $4 million contract. Now, think about that, okay? Now, last year he played under the tag, which he basically tripled his earnings in 1 year. So what Le'Veon Bell is trying to do, besides get a fair contract, and he's a unique player, he touched the ball 406 times last year, okay, between 321 carries, 85 catches. That's a pretty healthy year. But what I'm trying to say is Le'Veon Bell's, what he's trying to do is get his big contract now, and especially the running back, because more than likely there won't be a 3rd big contract for a running back. There can be 2nd big contracts for an offensive lineman, even a 3rd big contract for an offensive lineman. There are no 3rd big contracts for a running back.
That's so true, Russell. Because that market is so suppressed, you can draft the guy in the 5th round or 6th round and have him plug him in there. The running back market and how running backs are used are pretty much, hey, we can replace you with somebody cheaper real fast.
Well, and again, also where you get selected. Okay, I mean, this is probably a very different story. I mean, you look at Le'Veon Bell's career, and I'm willing to bet some people thought he was a 1st-round draft choice when you look what he has done. Okay. But the fact that he's a 2nd-round draft choice is why he's looking for the big payday, because this is his contract to set him up for the rest of his life. And players think about that. They are thinking about the rest of their lives because they understand the fragility of the job.
And last one I got for you, Russell, before we get out of here in this segment here, Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. Talking about Dimitrov has said he wants to pay Tevin Coleman a nice contract. Do you think that's wise for the Falcons to use up cap space to sign Tevin Coleman? Is he worth maybe a $6 million, $5 million contract to back up Devontae Freeman because he does play more in our spread packages? He's a good guy. You can split out wide as well. So, do you think Dimitrov is just saying that, or is this a real option to actually have him back as the backup at $5 million, doing multiple things in the offense?
Well, that's a tough situation. As you know, that's a very, very tough thing to do. Okay, is to pay two running backs, and I don't know if he's saying the same money and so on, but contract. Listen, it all depends on how your team is structured. Okay, is this a team that relies more on Freeman and Coleman than to do the tight ends? Obviously, Julio Jones is a big factor. Somebody's going to have to bend here a little. That's what we know. Okay, but I think he is sincere in there because I think the Falcons have a unique situation. Sometimes you find, it's a shame. Sometimes you get punished for being good. Okay, I go back to Dallas a couple of years ago, the year that both DeMarco Murray and Dez Bryant's contracts were up. It just so happened that Dez Bryant led the NFL in touchdown receptions that year, and DeMarco Murray led the NFL in rushing that year. Okay, so what do? You can't break necessarily the bank with both of them. You can pay them both well, but, they made the decision, obviously, to keep Dez Bryant, and DeMarco Murray walked, and actually he's been, the Eagles didn't really use him, but the Titans got 2 respectable years out of him, to say the least. So sometimes you get punished for developing good players, and the Falcons have developed 2 very, very good running backs who really complement each other.
You got that right, Russell. I thank you for you coming on the show today. I always love talking to you. Love hearing your knowledge, man. You one of the best guys in the business with football knowledge, man. Keep up the good work. Let's talk to you real soon, man.
You got it, sir. Keep it going.
All right. What's the best people on the Bossman Show?
This beat is so rich.
Folks, we back here on the Boss Man Show, going up to New York, New Jersey, the tri-state area, where it's probably cold as it is where I'm at here in Minnesota right now, to my man who shovels snow like no other. It's Tony T-Ball Williams. What's good, brother? The show snuffler.
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Enjoying it. March Madness is about to close it down. Hawks about to close it down. Vacation is right down the road, brother.
You're almost free, man. Almost home free.
Yes, indeed. Man, Bone, I got to talk to you about the Knicks, man. As you know, I got friends on the Knicks roster, as you know. Crystallized this season for me, for the Knicks, man. Like, what do they want to accomplish this year, and how far are they off their goal, what they want to accomplish this year?
Well, I mean, at the beginning of the year, of course, their goal was to be competitive. They had Kristaps, who was healthy, and now the man in charge. Then, of course, the narrative shifted once they lost him for the year of the torn ACL. Then it became just a tankathon. But the funny thing about the Knicks, though, that the Knicks can't even tank right. They're now 3-3 in their last 6 games, and these guys are playing hungry and they're playing hard, and that's not what Mills and Perry had in mind. Because they wanted, and I know they won't say it on record, but obviously they wanted to get a higher pick in the draft or higher chance of ping pong balls. But here they are now, 3-3, last 6 games. Trey Burke's on fire, and as of right now, today, they have the 9th worst record in the NBA, which is not good enough to get a really bona fide star in all rankings. So right now, they're kind of like in between, almost like purgatory, where they want to play hard because you know as well as I do, being around players and athletes and being in locker rooms, players who play want to win. They don't care about the whole tanking thing. tanking comes from up top, from management, from coaching. So it's funny to see how it works out that Perry and Mills want the team to tank secretly, but the players aren't having that.
Exactly. And as you know, I'm around tanking every day, and I see it. It's a player thing because it's the Utah Jazz. I know personally that there are people in the hospital organization who won't admit this on the record or say it out loud, or I will say it myself. They wanted them losers to Utah Jazz. But then Schroeder had a career night scoring 40-some points and beat the Utah Jazz that night. Now,
Yeah.
losing Sacramento and Golden State help and Houston help, yeah. But that's one less loss. And now Memphis has 19 wins. You got Phoenix at 19 wins. You're at 21 wins. You probably could use one less win to help you get that higher draft pick. You want as many people out as you can. Atlanta Hawks, you can't really sign guys to play in Atlanta right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, as you said, players play to win no matter what, because players can't count on tanking because their jobs are always on the line. They're always being evaluated. And so even if they're not on the team they're tanking for, other personnel, other GMs around the league see these guys. And if they see these guys dogging it and tanking it, they don't have a job next year on the team. So it's funny to watch the Knicks, how a guy like Trey Burke almost single-handedly won that game last night in Charlotte. He gave a career high of 42 points, and it kind of messed up things. It's a good thing for the Knicks, though, the manager, that they lost in overtime to Charlotte. But I'm sure there's some worried, fidgety people in management for the Knicks watching that game saying, Trey, please stop scoring.
Exactly. And so Trey Burke, is he a guy that's for the future or for the Knicks? And who are some other guys the front office identify as cornerstones of this program going forward?
Well, I'd imagine that, of course, Kristaps is still the man on the roster. But who knows how a guy returns from ACL injury? Because big men are different. Big men with a lower body injuries, who knows how they react to it going forward? But obviously, Porzingis is still the number one guy. Burke has to figure in the future because he is absolutely, without a doubt, the best point guard on this roster. Now, I'm not sure what that means for guys like Moutier and Jared Jack and then Frank Ntilikina, because this guy came from the G League and is carrying it up. So what to say about the players on your roster, but Burke absolutely is the best point guard on the team, the best point guard in this city, all due respect to a guy named Dinwiddie for the Nets. Trey Burke right now is playing the best point guard right now in New York City. So to me, I think he has to be part of the equation going forward. But there aren't a lot of building blocks on the team. I mean, Porzingis, maybe Burke, Hardaway's still coming back, of course, next year because his salary is too big, and probably Cantor. And after that, of course, Ntilikina, because he's a first-round pick. So after that, it's pretty much up in the air.
And Jeff Hornacek, is he a dead man walking bone because Perry and Mills want their own man and want to get rid of the last inch of Phil Jackson?
You got to almost think that this is probably it for Hornacek. And it's really no fault of his own because he was put in a bad spot from day one, being Phil's guy and being forced at the triangle from day one. It was pretty much a mismatch anyway, because you think about Hornacek and his career as a coach, whether it's Utah or in Phoenix, he loves three-guard offenses. He loves up-tempo, three-point shooting, and that's the antithesis of the triangle. Triangles are stay in, slow it down, a triple post kind of offense where they don't shoot a lot of threes. So it really was a mismatch from day one. So I kind of feel that with Hornacek, kind of put in a bad spot, but like you said, he's not Perry or Mills' guy. So it makes it easy for those guys to say, you know what, we're going a different direction. And also it helped the fact that he's had that battle with Noah. You saw him getting screened on by Kyle O'Quinn. So it looks like it's coming to an end soon, and I really don't blame Hornacek for his next because he came to a bad spot anyway.
And is the hot name Mama, there goes that man, Mark Jackson, the shimmy shake, 24-second back downer?
If you ask every Knicks fan over the last 10 years, who do they want to be their head coach, it's unquestionably Mark Jackson. I know for a fact that Mark wants this job. He's always wanted this job. Unfortunately, Dolan has never brought him in really for serious consideration for some unknown reason. It's baffling why Dolan never really gave it any real thought. But if you ask every New York Knicks fan, Mark Jackson is their guy. That's how they want. They wanted Jeff Van Gundy to come back. That wasn't going to happen because that bridge is almost napalmed. They wanted Thibodeau to come back because he was an assistant coach on Jeff Van Gundy's staff once. That wasn't happening. So next best choice obviously was Mark Jackson. He's homegrown. He is a former Knick. Dolan always says once a Knick, always a Knick. So this is a match made in heaven. Mark Jackson, people forget this now because of how glorious the Warriors are. That's Mark Jackson's team. Mark Jackson really gave the blueprint to the Warriors. Steve Kerr piggybacked off that in Golden State. But those are Mark Jackson's guys, pretty much, save for Durant. The system that's in place was a Mark Jackson vision. So Mark Jackson is a very good basketball mind. He's also well respected around the NBA and in the locker room still. Players still know him because of his broadcasting work. Players still know him today. He's still relevant in their eyes. But it makes total sense. I hope it happens. I don't want to say that I want to get fired, lose a job. I never root for a coach losing a job. But if Hornacek is done, I definitely want Mark Jackson in that post.
I mean, Bone, you do root for a coach being fired, an unnamed coach that I won't mention. You do root for him to be fired.
I'll amend that. I don't say publicly that I want coach to get fired, but there are some guys that don't need to be coaching anymore in the league.
There you go, my man. Talking to T-Bo Williams on the Bossman Show with me. Now, Bone, what were the Jets thinking with this trade with the Colts, going on 3 spots, giving up 3 second-round picks from 98 players? Their roster is trash at best and garbage at best. So what was the thinking around fleecing all 3 picks for moving up 3 spots? I don't get it.
Well, the thinking is they love one of the 3 quarterbacks, and that's it. I got to figure it's going to be Darnold going to Cleveland, number 1. And then it's going to be a battle for the Jets in the front office. Who they go for, Rosen or Allen? The Giants pick second. The Giants are absolutely not beholden to getting a quarterback at number 2. They can go any myriad of ways or even trade out of that pick. So what you're left with for the Jets is they're going to have that pick between Josh Allen or Josh Rosen. And I would imagine that they've seen this story before with a big, strong-arm quarterback who's not accurate. They already have one on the roster in Hackenberg. I can't imagine them liking Josh Allen so much to move up and give all that capital for a guy whose percentages in college are erratic as best. I know he's a big, strong guy. They play here in Jersey. The wind's always swirling. His arm is suited for this arm strength-wise, but accuracy, it worries me. So I can't imagine them going for Allen. I think that Rosen is probably the best of their lots. To me, Rosen's the best QB in the entire draft. But there's so many things outside football that worry personnel people. So I'm not sure the Jets will also click that because Rosen is a very liberal, outspoken kind of guy. Woody Johnson is a Trump guy. So don't let that fool you. That does play into thinking of the Jets. To have a guy who's so outspoken politically, or GMs think this guy might be distracted, which is BS. The kid is focused on football, but you know how GMs are. They're cavemen. They think that QB can only think of football only and not break down into other things in his life. But to answer your question as far as moving up from 6 to 3, they only like 3 quarterbacks, and they figure they're going to get one of their favorites at that 3. Now, it's kind of reckless of Bowles to tell us the other day that he thinks that there are 6 or 7 worthy players to pick at that position. Now, if that is true, which I think is not, I think he's lying to us, but if that is true, why trade out of that 6th spot then anyway? And if you think there are 6 or 7 franchise guys, why not hold on to your capital, stand pat at 6, and pick the best player available? So that was a lie. So they obviously want a quarterback as they go on that route.
Now, Bone, you got Josh McCown, Teddy Bridgewater, Hackenberg, Petty, and another quarterback. That's 5 quarterbacks on the roster, man.
Now,
how does roulette shake out, man?
Oh, that's easy. They're going to definitely get rid of Hackenberg. They're probably going to test the waters on Petty and see if there's any kind of value for him to trade market, maybe a 6 or high 7. They're going to try that. But definitely bringing in McCown and Bridgewater as a bridge guy. Who knows? They might strike gold with Bridgewater. 1-year deal, $5 million. If he wins a starting job, that is one of the best values in the NFL. To have a starting QB only earn $5 million, that is well below market value. So if they can find a way to get Bridgewater healthy and maintain him and get him that starting job, then have McCown groom the new guy coming in, whether it's Allen or Rosen, they're kind of set up that way to build from within to have the veterans lead the way. Now, who knows? Bridgewater might strike gold this year and play out of his mind and play above his means as Case Keenum did last year in Minnesota and get a bigger contract. But if even that happens, Bridgewater's probably not coming back then. This is a move where they're going to trim the fat in the QB room. I can't see Hacker or Petty surviving that club.
Man, so also is Miles McCallion and Tyler Bowles dead men walking in 18? Are they just going through the motion to do this for the next regime, or does Christopher Johnson really give them a chance to see this through?
No, I honestly think that for the first time in a long time, the Jets are going to favor stability, and they're going to give McCagnon and Bowles some leeway, some leash. Because remember last year, Woody Johnson, before he started to work for Trump's campaign or Trump's office, he said that he doesn't believe in swapping coaches so quickly like this anymore because it's not the way to win in the NFL. You need continuity. And really, Bowles has been given a short deck for almost his entire career as a coach of the Jets. The roster has always been gutted. They always had young players come in, cheap young labor. So this is finally a time where Chris Johnson, now acting as the owner, the guy in charge, he's going to give McCagnon and Bowles a lot of room, I think. I don't see him getting rid of either of those two guys. They're kind of tied together as a package deal anyway, so I don't see McCagnon or Bowles going anywhere anytime soon because we did see some improvement in this team. I know they went 5-11 last year, only 5 wins. That's not good enough. We know that. But the roster wasn't good enough either. So they're finally trying to give them a good roster to work with and then see what happens.
Yeah, and why did the Jets put off for the Sue? They're trying to save face before Sue went to L.A. What was that all about?
Oh, it's one of those things where you're out, out and about town, and you see this beautiful woman, right? And you give her your phone number, and then you kind of exchange numbers, kind of flirt a little bit, and then you kind of get the vibe that's not into you. So then you preemptively going to say, you know what? I'm into her anyway, so I'm going to call her back. That's what the Jets did. The Jets were like preempting the heartbreak. They knew that Sue was not coming to New York, so to preempt that embarrassment, to say, you know what? We don't want him anyway. So that's all it was, because they knew that Sue wasn't coming here.
That's what's up. It's my man, Tony T-Bone Williams, breaking down the New York sports scene for you as only he can. Bone, hey, I enjoyed the end of this season, bro. Tankapalooza. Sorry that the Knicks are not taking good enough. The Hawks aren't taking good enough either. So we both got two teams who don't know how to tank right.
Yeah, it's so Knicks of them. It's so Knicks to not tank right, and now they hold a nice overall pick as right now. It ends today. It's so Knicks of them to not go full on tank after Porzingis went down. So now we 3-3 in last 6 games, and now playing pretty good ball down the stretch. That's so Knicks of them.
Very much so, folks. That's Tony T-Bone Williams. Follow me at T-Bone8. We are out.